SoFi stock has treated investors extremely well over the past year, up over 200% over that span. Over the past 1 month alone, the stock is up over 40%. In the past 5 trading days, the stock is up nearly 11%. And just today, as of recording this video, the stock is up nearly 4%. We closed at $19.95. But early on in trading this morning, the stock touched as high as $20.84. That's another 52-week high for the stock, and it's actually the highest we've seen the stock since November of 2021 in the insane risk-on bull market we had after the pandemic crash. And even though we've seen crazy strength over the past year, it really seems like SoFi is just getting started with the way that they're positioning themselves for the back half of 2025 and beyond. So in this video, we're going to talk about some innovations with SoFi. We're going to talk about the macro backdrop that's going to allow lending to explode in the back half of 2025 and the beginning of 2026. And we'll talk about Q2 growth numbers that we're going to see when SoFi reports their earnings in about 20 days. The numbers are going to be eye-popping as it relates to EPS growth specifically. We'll talk about that in the back half of the video, so make sure you stick around for that. I'm excited to get into the video, but first, if you're not subscribed, go ahead and click that subscribe button. Help us out on our near-term goal of hitting 10,000 subscribers. I'd really appreciate that. And if you want to hear about SoFi and any other stocks on buying, selling, holding, doing research on, etc., consider joining the Patreon with the link in the description and the pinned comment down there. Let's jump into the video. So first, let's dive into some innovations. And this news here today comes just a few weeks after we got a big-time crypto announcement with SoFi, including crypto investing on the SoFi app, self-serve international money transfers that are going to be transmitted on well-known blockchain networks, and SoFi offered stablecoins, which are not available yet, but will be in the back half of 2025. And now today we get an announcement that says SoFi expands access to private markets with funds from Cashmere, Fundrise, and Liberty Street. So they already offered private real estate and private credit investments, as well as the ARK Venture Fund. That was already there, but now as of today, you can already see it on the SoFi app. They have the Cashmere Fund, they have the Innovation Fund from Fundrise, and then they have the Private Shares Fund from Liberty Street Advisors. And through these funds, you can get access to private companies like SpaceX, Epic Games, OpenAI, Anthropic, Canva, and way more. And where we'll see this in the numbers for SoFi is in their financial services segment, specifically in the fee-based revenue. And I'll show you what I'm talking about. If you click through each one of these funds, you'll see here that there's a 2% transaction fee for each one of these private funds. So let's say you go and you buy $10,000 of the ARK Venture Fund, 2% of that, or $200, is going to be taken off the top, and then you'll actually buy $9,800 of the underlying asset. So SoFi gets their money up front for providing access to you, and then they're hands off at that point. There's no selling fee, and then SoFi doesn't charge any fees on top of that 2%. There are management fees that are factored into the total return of each one of these individual funds, but those would be fees paid to the managing company like Fundrise or like Cashmere or like ARK. But as it relates to SoFi, this is that capital light, fee-based revenue that they've been focusing on that's allowed their financial services revenue and profitability to absolutely explode. So this is just one more thing that's going to help those financial services numbers look even stronger, which is ridiculous because the growth there has been absolutely insane. From the financial services segment in Q1 of 2025, they had more than 100% revenue growth year over year and nearly 300% contribution profit growth year over year, which made the margin explode from 25% all the way to 49% in Q1 of 2025 just for the financial services segment. Now, expanding these private equity offerings, they've got even more ways to bring in that capital light, fee-based revenue that has been so beneficial for their profitability and their margins with no added balance sheet risk whatsoever at all. Now, the second thing that's setting SoFi up for a great second half of 2025 is the economic backdrop for the lending segment. Lending for SoFi went through a little bit of a slump in 2024, but we're definitely seeing a resurgence. We had 25% lending revenue growth in Q1 of 2025 and 15% contribution profit growth, but the margins did decrease year over year from 64% all the way down to 58% margin in Q1 of 2025 when you compare to Q1 of 2024. So I wouldn't say lending's in a weak spot, but I also wouldn't say it's in a super strong spot for SoFi. This is their largest business segment in terms of total revenue and in terms of total profit. The financial services segment will definitely pass that over the next few quarters in revenue and in profit, but for now, lending is still their largest segment. So whatever happens with the lending segment is going to affect the stock price in a major way. And we've got two things that are very, very bullish for SoFi's lending revenue and profits in the back half of 2025. One is that the Fed has said that that they're going to be cutting rates. They expect 2 rate cuts. How large those rate cuts are going to be is not determined right now, but at least 25 basis points, which means 0.25% is probably going to be what they cut both of the times, unless we see a big time cooling of inflation. If we see inflation numbers hit 2%, specifically the core CPI hit 2%, which is pretty unlikely, we would probably see a bigger cut, like a 50 basis point cut, which would be 0.5%. But I don't think that's going to happen. So for now, I'm expecting that we're going to have 2 25 basis point cuts, which will definitely help lending pick up in a pretty decent way. It won't make lending explode like crazy, but there is one other thing that could help lending explode like crazy, specifically student loan originations for SoFi. SoFi offers private student loans for undergrad students, graduate students, and medical and dental students as well. Why this matters is because the new bill, the big beautiful bill that just got passed, has some federal student loan reforms in it. So check it out. The law reforms the federal student loan system by providing fewer options for students to pay back their loans, giving less flexibility on repayment for students in financial difficulty, and creating a $200,000 federal student loan limit. A lot of programs are going to be way more than $200,000, especially graduate school, medical school, dental school, things like this. So students are going to have to look for other options outside of federal student loans, and someone like SoFi is set to benefit from this in a major way. So when will we start to see the benefit of this student loan news in SoFi's numbers? In the back half of 2025, Q3 and Q4. The earnings report we're going to get in about 20 days from me recording this video. There will be no benefit whatsoever at all because this bill just passed at the beginning of Q3 2025. So the earliest we could see it in the numbers is in the Q3 earnings report and the Q4 earnings report. And speaking of earnings, the growth numbers we're about to see in Q2 of 2025 here in about 20 days are going to be ridiculous. The revenue growth is going to be very respectable at roughly 25%. A consensus estimate is for $801.9 million of revenue, and that compares to $598.6 million in the second quarter of 2024. So year over year, if they just meet that consensus estimate, which we know they have a history of beating, but if they just meet it, that's about 25% revenue growth year over year. Now that's impressive, but that's what we've come to expect from SoFi. But the growth number we're about to see that's going to be absolutely insane is the EPS growth number year over year. So in Q2 of 2024, they reported 1 cent of EPS. In Q2 of 2025, the consensus estimate is for them to report 6 cents of EPS. But we know SoFi has a history of beating on EPS numbers. Over the past 4 quarters, they had 139% EPS beat in Q2 of 2024. A 25% EPS beat in Q3 of 2024, a 645% EPS beat in Q4 of 2024, and then an 82% EPS beat in Q1 of 2025. So the odds that they come in and beat this consensus EPS estimate of 6 cents is extremely high. But even if they don't beat it and they just meet that estimate, that's still roughly 500% EPS growth year over year. That is an eye-popping number and is definitely going to get the momentum behind SoFi. I want to be clear that 500% EPS growth is not sustainable. The EPS comps that SoFi has from 1 year ago are super easy to beat because they were in the process of flipping the profitability corner, becoming profitable for the first few quarters. That was where they were at about a year ago. Those EPS growth rates are naturally going to come down over time, but I expect EPS growth rates to be at least 2x of their revenue growth for at least the next 3 to 5 years. And they're doing all of this while trading at a price to book that's only 22% higher than JP Morgan's price to book and more than 3 times lower than Robinhood's price to book. Of all the stocks I hold, SoFi might just have the best setup for the back half of 2025 and the first half of 2026. I'm excited to see where they take this thing from a business fundamental standpoint and then what that does to the share price as a result. SoFi is a top 3 holding for me, and I plan on holding this stock for the next many, many years to go in the future. Let me know what you think about this innovation news of SoFi and how you feel like they're set up for the second half of 25 and the first half of 26. Definitely one of my favorite parts of posting here on YouTube is having some conversation with you guys down there. So I'm looking forward to that. And if you made it this far in the video, consider checking out the Patreon with the pinned comment and the first link in the description. I appreciate you being here in a major way. Thank you so much. Have a great day.